So when Sony announced the a6400, I myself was actually pretty disappointed, and I may have talked a little bit of smack on one of my previous videos, but with all that said, after owning the camera for about a month now, I can clearly say without a doubt, I was wrong. Now, just to start off, the build quality of the a6400 is extremely similar to the 6300. It's pretty much identical except for that articulating flip-up screen. You're still getting that nice matte finish around the entire camera. You're still getting that rubberized grip. Now, with that flip-up screen, it's definitely a net positive for this camera. It's something us Sony users have been begging Sony to put in a camera for years now. But with that said, this flip-up screen is not perfect. If you're someone who's looking to get great video footage of themselves, you probably also want to get great audio, which means you're going to use an external microphone. And the placement of the flip-up screen is also directly in front of the hot shield, which means if you're trying to put an external mic on this camera, it's gonna block the entire screen. But luckily, since this camera has been on the market for a little bit of time now, there are accessories currently on the market that work around this issue. There is a very cheap slim adapter from SmallRig that lets you move the shoe mount off to the side so you can plug in your microphone and not block any of your screen. And this flip-up screen is also touch enabled. It's not fully featured, you can't go through the menus or anything like that, but it makes getting your focus point a lot easier, so I do appreciate that. But really quickly, let's go over some of the similarities between the a6400 and the a63 and a6500. The Sony a6400 is still using the MPF-W50 batteries. Those tiny little batteries that if you own any a6000 series camera, you have plenty of in your bag because these things do not last that long. They're still in this camera, but according to Sony, they did optimize the system a bit better, so it does take a bit more advantage of those small little batteries, and they should, in theory, last you longer. It also has the same 24 megapixel resolution sensor, though the sensor in this camera is new and improved, and it's giving us that AI enhanced autofocus. And just like the a6300, there is no in-body image stabilization, and I know a lot of people were saying that this is something they couldn't put in there because of how low the price is. This is actually something that I was extremely disappointed in this camera not having. And while I can understand that they can't put everything in here because this is more of a budget-friendly camera option, I still think that they could have included it for $100 or $200 more and people would have bought this thing up like crazy. Now, as for the newer features that are different on this camera compared to the other Sony models, this is where things get a lot more exciting. First and foremost, there is no record limit on this camera. They finally got away from record limits. They finally followed in Panasonic's footsteps. But of course, this is something you could easily hack into your older a6000 cameras. But of course, with these newer Sony cameras, there is no more Play Memories app store. You can't do any of that anymore. They took that out completely, which I know they did because basically no one ever used it. I myself bought 2 of the apps on there before, but I never used those apps anyway, so it's kind of a waste of money. Because they took away the Play Memories app store, they did finally include a built-in time-lapse feature into these cameras directly, so no more having to go into the store and go into the app. And with this camera, like all the other cameras Sony is now releasing, overheating is a thing of the past. We don't really have to worry about overheating anymore. Now, for the biggest improvement with this camera, the thing that everybody was going crazy over, the thing that everybody was clamoring for, the improved AI enhanced real-time autofocus. Now with real-time tracking, all you have to do is tap on a subject within your scene and the camera will be able to lock onto focus and just hold onto it the whole way through. Even if something walks in front of it or something is partially blocking that subject, it should be able to hold onto that and know exactly what you're trying to look for. Let's say if you tap onto someone's t-shirt within a scene and that's the thing you want to track, the camera will be smart enough to try to find a face that's in a certain radius of that t-shirt that you tapped on. And if it can find the face, then it'll try searching for the eye. And if it can find the eye, it will lock onto that eye. And then if at any point it loses the eye or if it loses the face, it'll go right back to that original tracking point. Now that sounds fantastic. And in my practice, it has worked for the most part. There is still times where it does get confused and it loses its tracking point and it switches over to something that's completely different, that's not even the same color or texture as the thing you selected in the first place. But even with the little hiccups here and there, I'm still extremely impressed with this feature, and a lot of people who have been Canon users have been saying that this thing is extremely comparable to dual pixel autofocus on the Canon. So finally, the very last thing I want to talk about with this camera is its price. And right now, the body only is priced at $900. But if you're a student, you can sign up for B&H's student rewards program or whatever it's called, and you can actually get this camera for $800. This is definitely worth $800. Even if you're paying the full $900 just for the body alone, it's absolutely worth it. With all the improvements this camera has, even though it doesn't have in-body image stabilization, even though it has the same crappy batteries, it doesn't have a headphone jack, it still has 1 card slot, yes, all these little things. The camera is only $800 to $900. It is so affordable, especially if you have an a6000 or a 6300. You can sell that and get about half of the money you need to buy this camera. And then at that point, it's just like a no-brainer. Just pick it up. You're gonna enjoy it. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love all the improvements. So I was wrong. This is definitely a must buy if you're just getting started or if you're looking for an improvement from the a6000 or even the a6300. Though if you have the a6500, I'd say maybe hold on to that camera. I don't think it's worth an upgrade for you necessarily. And if you're a full frame user like I am myself, I use the a7 III primarily, though I am recording this on the a6400 and it's doing fabulous. And I love the fact that I can actually see that it's still recording, because often I go way past 30 minutes when I'm recording these talking segments and I have no idea because the camera doesn't notify me that it's stopped recording. So the fact that I can see that it's still recording is great. If you're someone who doesn't have any Sony camera right now at all and you're just starting out, I'd still recommend this one as your first Sony camera. I think this is definitely a great buy, especially if you're just getting started. Now, if you don't agree with me and you don't think the a6400 is worth it and you don't think I was wrong originally, please leave me a comment down below and let me know why. Feel free to get angry. I get those often. If you agree with me and you think this is definitely a great pickup and it's something you should look into, leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you already picked it up or if you're thinking about it or what are you considering. What lens are you getting with this? Right now, I only have the 35mm f1.8 from Sony with the optical steady shot. I sold all my other lenses when I bought the a7 III and I kind of regret that now. But if you like the video, please consider subscribing. I cannot say that word today. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And as always, my name is Joshua Munoz. Stay sexy, and I'll see you sometime.